When I opened the door to my house that afternoon, I never imagined my own daughter would be waiting for me, her eyes blazing with fury. Jennifer was standing in the middle of the living room, arms crossed, her face completely distorted. Beside her, Mark paced back and forth like a caged animal, cell phone in hand, the veins in his neck bulging with rage. They didn't even let me close the door. "Have you lost your mind?" Jennifer shouted, advancing toward me with furious steps. My husband nearly had a heart attack at the ATM. Her words bounced off the walls filled with a venom I knew all too well, but this time it no longer hurt me as it had before. Mark got closer, waving his phone in my face. "Where is the money, Eleanor? What did you do?" His card was empty. There wasn't a single dollar. His voice was a desperate roar, as if something that belonged to him by right had been snatched away. But that money was mine, my pension. The fruit of 42 years working at the textile mill. Getting up before sunrise, sacrificing my back and my knees, I set my purse down on the small entryway table with a calm that surprised even me. "I changed my banking information," I said in a firm voice, looking both of them directly in the eye. "Now my pension goes to a new card, one that only I control." The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Mark froze, his face turning from bright red to a deathly white. It was as if the world had stopped for an instant. That second before the explosion we all know is coming, but no one can stop. "What? What did you say?" Jennifer stammered, bringing a hand to her chest. "Mom, you can't do that. We depend on that money. We have expenses. We have debts to pay." "Debts?" I repeated, feeling something inside me harden like steel. "Are you referring to Mark's new car? Or the vacation to Florida last month? Or maybe that giant television you bought the week before?" Mark took a step forward, his index finger pointing at me accusingly. "You live in our house. You eat our food. It's the least you can do to contribute." His words were spat out, loaded with a contempt he no longer tried to hide. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my throat. "Our house. How funny that you call it that now when the property deeds still have my late husband's name and mine on them. This house that we bought with so much effort, brick by brick, sacrifice after sacrifice, is now your house in my son-in-law's vocabulary." "This is my house, Mark," I said with a voice I didn't recognize as my own, too firm, too sure. "You two came to live here 3 years ago. Remember when you lost your apartment because you couldn't pay the rent?" Jennifer let out a choked cry as if I had slapped her. "I can't believe you're talking to me like this. I'm your daughter, your only daughter. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." Tears began to roll down her cheeks, but they were tears of rage, not sadness. I knew them well. I had seen them so many times when she didn't get what she wanted. "Everything you've done for me," the words came out colder than I intended. "Tell me, Jennifer, what exactly have you done for me?" She stammered, searching the air for arguments. We give you a roof over your head. We take care of you." "Will you take care of me?" I interrupted, feeling decades of silence breaking inside me like a burst dam. "Do you take care of me when you wake me up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make breakfast? When I have to wash your clothes, iron Mark's shirts, clean the bathroom, you dirty? Is that taking care of me?" Mark slammed his fist against the wall, making the wedding picture that had hung there for 45 years tremble. "You are an ungrateful, selfish old woman. Without us, you'd be rotting in some dead-end nursing home." His words should have hurt me. 6 months ago, they would have destroyed me. But today, After what I had lived through, after the humiliations I had swallowed in silence, after the nights spent crying in my room while they laughed in the living room, spending my $1,500 a month on their whims, those words bounced off me without causing any harm. Maybe you're right, I said, picking up my purse again. Maybe I am a selfish old woman, but this selfish old woman just got her freedom back. Jennifer collapsed onto the sofa, the same sofa I had paid for when theirs broke. Her hands trembled as she covered her face. You can't do this to us, Mom. Please. Mark has medical treatments. I have. We have financial commitments. You're going to ruin us. I'm going to ruin you, I repeated slowly, letting each word settle in the thick air of the room. Isn't that ironic? For 3 years, you have lived off my pension. Every dollar that I earned with my sweat and my effort. And now that I decide that money is mine again, I'm the one who's ruining you. Mark approached again. But this time, there was something different in his eyes. It wasn't just rage anymore. It was fear. Real fear of losing his source of income, his personal ATM, that had worked for so long without protest. Eleanor, let's be reasonable, he said, trying to soften his tone, but not quite succeeding. We can reach an agreement. You don't have to be so drastic. I looked at this man, who had entered my family 7 years ago, with his charming smile, and his promises to take care of my daughter. The same man who now saw me only as a source of money, as a resource to be exploited until there was nothing left of me. The only agreement we are going to have, I said, as I walked toward the stairs leading to my room, is that from today on my money is mine alone. And if that bothers you, well, the door is open. You know where it is. I left them there in the middle of the living room, with their mouths open and their plans crumbling. I climbed each step feeling an enormous weight lift from my shoulders. It had taken me 69 years to learn this lesson, that love can't be bought, that real family doesn't exploit you, and that it is never, ever too late to reclaim your dignity. Behind me, I heard Jennifer sobbing and Mark cursing under his breath. But for the first time in 3 years, those sounds no longer broke my heart. They only reminded me why I had made the most important decision of my life, that morning when I walked into the bank and said the words that would change everything. I want to change my banking information. I need a new card, one that no one else can touch. It all began 3 years ago, at my husband Richard's funeral. I remember the smell of white carnations, mixed with the aroma of coffee the neighbors had prepared for the guests. I remember Jennifer's hands squeezing mine as I watched the coffin descend, taking with it 45 years of my life, of shared laughter, of quiet breakfasts, of silly arguments and sweet reconciliations. Richard died of a massive heart attack on a Tuesday morning. He was watering the plants in the garden, those roses he loved so much, when he simply collapsed. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. The doctor told me he didn't suffer. That it was instantaneous. But I suffered. God, how I suffered. The first few months in that empty house were a silent hell. Every corner screamed his absence. His coffee mug in the cabinet, his slippers by the bed, his toothbrush, which I didn't have the courage to throw away until 6 months later. I would wake up in the pre-dawn hours expecting to find him in the kitchen reading the newspaper, and reality would hit me every time, as if it were the first. Jennifer came to visit me often at first. Mom, you can't stay alone, she would say, sitting on the living room sofa where Richard and I had watched so many movies. Come live with us for a while, just until you get back on your feet. Mark would nod beside her with that smile that seemed genuine to me then, full of filial concern. I resisted for weeks. This house was my sanctuary, the place where I had raised Jennifer, where every wall held a memory, but loneliness weighed on my bones like lead. The nights became eternal. The silence was so thick I could touch it. So finally, I accepted. Just for a little while, I told them, until I learned to be alone again. I packed 2 suitcases with the essentials. Clothes, some photos, the green knitted shawl Richard had given me for our 20th anniversary. I closed the door of my house with a lump in my throat, promising myself I would be back soon. How naive I was. How blind I was. The first few months at Jennifer's house were bearable. She worked at a boutique downtown and Mark was supposedly looking for a job after being fired from the insurance company where he worked. I helped with the household chores. I cooked, I cleaned. It made me feel useful, needed. I thought I was contributing to the family while I healed my broken heart. But things began to change subtly. First, it was Mark who asked to borrow $200 for a course that, according to him, would help him get a job. "I'll pay you back next month, Eleanor. I promise." He never paid it back. Then Jennifer needed $300 to pay off a credit card debt. "It's an emergency, Mom. If I don't pay, they are going to charge me sky-high interest." I never saw that money back either. At first, I didn't mind. They were my family. My only family. If my money could help them, why not? Richard always said that family came first, that money came and went, but blood ties were eternal. I believed those words as if they were gospel. One day, Mark came with a proposal. "Eleanor, I've been thinking. It would be easier if your pension went directly into our account. That way, we can manage the household expenses better. You don't have to worry about anything. We'll take care of everything." He said it so naturally, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. Jennifer supported the idea immediately. "It's true, Mom. It's simpler that way. Besides, you're not good with numbers. Remember how Dad handled all the finances? We'll do the same. We'll take care of you." Their words sounded reasonable, wrapped in concern and love, or what I believed was love. I signed the papers at the bank without reading the fine print. With faith, I gave access to my card. I handed over control of my $1,500 a month without asking questions. After all, I lived under their roof, ate their food, used their electricity. It was only fair, wasn't it? It was the right thing to do. The transformation was gradual, so slow that I didn't realize it until I was already trapped. Mark began to treat me less like a mother-in-law, and more like an employee. "Eleanor, breakfast is taking too long. I'm in a hurry." "Eleanor, these shirts aren't ironed well. Do them again." "Eleanor, you cleaned the bathroom poorly. There are still spots on the mirror." Jennifer stopped asking me how I was. The conversations about my day, about my feelings, about my grieving process simply disappeared. Now we only talked about pending chores, groceries I needed to buy, meals I had to prepare. I had become a shadow in that house, a useful ghost who cooked, cleaned, and paid bills without complaining. On weekends, they would go out to expensive restaurants without inviting me. It's just that those places are very noisy. "Mom, at your age, you need rest," Jennifer would say while putting on a coral-colored dress that I knew had cost at least $300. Dollars that came from my pension. I would stay home eating leftovers, watching television in the small room they had assigned me at the back of the house. One day, I found a receipt forgotten on the kitchen table. It was from a jewelry store at the most exclusive mall in the city. Mark had bought Jennifer a gold necklace for $1,200. My heart sank. While I wore the same worn-out clothes from years ago, while I denied myself basic pleasures like a new book or a pastry from the bakery I liked, they were indulging in luxuries with my money. I started to pay more attention. The nights out, the new clothes that appeared in their closets every week. The sports car Mark bought with his savings, even though he hadn't worked a single day in 2 years. It all fit together like a makeup puzzle. My pension wasn't being used for household expenses. It was financing a lifestyle they couldn't afford on their own. I tried to talk to Jennifer one night while we were washing dishes. "Honey, I've been thinking that maybe I should go back to my house. Enough time has passed since your dad died. I need to learn to live alone." My hands trembled as I rinsed a plate. She looked at me with cold eyes, so different from the warm eyes of the little girl I had raised. "Go back to your house." "Mom, don't be silly. That house is neglected. Besides, how are you going to live alone at your age? What if you fall? What if you get sick? Here you are safe. Here you are taken care of." But in her voice, there was no love. There was only calculation. That night, I cried in my small room, hugging the pillow to muffle the sobs. I missed Richard with an intensity that split me in two. He never would have allowed this. He would have defended me. But Richard was dead, buried under cold earth, and I was alone, facing a reality I didn't want to accept. My own daughter, the baby I had nursed, the girl whose knees I had patched up after every fall, the teenager whose tears I had dried after every romantic disappointment, was using me. She was squeezing me dry as if I were an inexhaustible resource, a source of money without feelings, without dignity, without value beyond what I could provide financially. But I still didn't have the courage to do anything. I still clung to the hope that things would get better, that it was just a difficult phase, that the love we once shared would re-emerge. I lied to myself every morning when I woke up. Every night when I went to bed, I swallowed the humiliation, because the alternative was to accept that I had lost not only my husband, but also my daughter. Months passed and the situation only worsened. Mark now didn't even pretend to look for work. He would get up at noon, eat the breakfast I prepared without even a thank you, and spend the rest of the day on the sofa watching sports or playing video games. Jennifer would come home from work and instead of helping me with dinner, would lock herself in her room to talk on the phone with her friends about their upcoming vacations. One Friday night, while I was cleaning the kitchen after they went out to dinner, I found the bank statement thrown in the trash can. I pulled it out with trembling hands and unfolded it under the lamplight. My eyes scanned the lines of expenses. Restaurants, bars, clothing stores, ISBIS, gyms. In a single month, they had spent $2,800. My pension was $1,500. The rest was coming from credit cards I didn't know existed. Cards that were being paid with my money from the following month. I sat down on the kitchen chair, feeling the world wobble around me. They were drowning in debt, living beyond their means, and using my pension as a bottomless pit to cover their excesses. How much longer could this last? What would happen when I could no longer pay their debts? Would they throw me out on the street like an old rag that was no longer useful? That night, lying in my narrow bed, staring at the cracked ceiling of my small room, I made a decision. I needed to know exactly what was happening with my money. I needed to understand the magnitude of the problem before I could do anything about it. And above all, I needed to regain even a little of the control I had lost over my own life. The next morning, I got up before dawn as always. I made the coffee, set the breakfast table, cooked scrambled eggs and toast, all on autopilot. While my mind worked on a plan, I needed information. I needed proof. I needed to see with my own eyes the extent of the theft they were committing against me. When Jennifer and Mark got up, I had already made a decision. I need to go to the bank today, I announced while pouring coffee. I have to sort out some things with your father's account that I left pending. Mark looked up from his phone with an expression of instant alarm. The bank? What do you need to go to the bank for? If you need something, I can go for you. His tone was too anxious, too controlling. It's personal business, I replied firmly, surprising myself. Documents I need to sign. Inheritance stuff. I lied without blinking. And the lie came out so naturally, it almost scared me. Jennifer exchanged a worried glance with Mark. Mom, I don't think it's a good idea for you to be out alone. Let me go with you. I get off work at 3. We can go together. But I knew that if she accompanied me, I would never get the answers I needed. I'll go alone, I said. And in my voice, there was something new, something that made them back off slightly. At 10 o'clock in the morning, don't worry about me. I grabbed my purse and left the house before they could protest further. The bank was 20 minutes away by bus. During the ride, my heart beat so hard. I thought all the passengers could hear it. What was I going to discover? Did I really want to know the truth? But it was too late to turn back. I had crossed an invisible line that morning and there was no return. At the bank, a young executive named Sarah assisted me with a professional smile. Good morning. How can I help you? Her eyes were kind without judgment, and that gave me the courage I needed. I need to see all the transactions on my account for the last 3 years, I said, my voice barely a whisper. All the deposits and all the withdrawals. I want a complete statement. Sarah nodded and began typing on her computer. After a few minutes, the printer spit out page after page of information. When it finished, there was a stack of papers nearly 50 pages thick in front of me. Would you like to review it here, or would you prefer to take it home? She asked. I'll review it here, I replied, taking the stack with hands that were barely trembling now. I sat in one of the chairs in the waiting area, and began to read. And with every page I turned, I felt my heart grow smaller, harder, colder. The numbers didn't lie. In 3 years, they had spent more than $60,000 of my pension. $60,000. The money I had earned with 42 years of work, getting up before the sun, sacrificing my health, my knees that now creaked with every step, my back that HDHD every night. I saw withdrawals of $500 at electronic stores, $800 at luxury restaurants, $1,000 at a jewelry store, $2,000 at a travel agency. Purchases and more purchases. Luxuries and more luxuries. All paid for with my effort, with my pain, with my dignity. But the worst part wasn't the large expenses. The worst part was the small details that revealed the true nature of their betrayal. Withdrawals of $20 at bars at 2 in the morning, $50 at beauty salons every week, $150 on clothes every month. While I wore the same 3 worn-out dresses I had brought from my house, while I refused to buy the medication for my arthritis because I didn't want to be a burden, they paraded around in new clothes and perfect nails. Sarah approached after an hour, a concerned expression on her face. Are you all right? Can I get you a glass of water? It was then I realized that tears were streaming down my cheeks without me even noticing. I'm fine, I lied, drying my tears with the back of my hand. I need to know something. Is it possible to change the banking information for my account? To have my pension deposited into a new account, a card that only I have. Sarah's eyes lit up with understanding. She had seen this before. I knew it from the way she nodded. Of course, it's possible, and I can help you with that right now if you'd like. I just need you to show me your identification and sign a few forms. My hand moved to my purse almost of its own accord. Yes, I said, and my voice sounded firmer than I felt. Yes, I want to do it now. I want a new account, a new card, something that only I can touch. Sarah worked quickly and efficiently. She explained every step of the process, every form I signed. In less than an hour, I had a completely new account with a card that would arrive at my address in 5 business days. My pension for the next month would be deposited directly there in a place where Jennifer and Mark couldn't reach it. Is there anything else I can do for you? Sarah asked when we finished. There was something in her eyes, a mix of admiration and sadness, as if she understood exactly what was happening. Yes, I said, surprising myself again. I want extra copies of these statements. 3 complete sets. If I was going to do this, if I was going to get my life back, I needed to be prepared for what came next. I left the bank with my purse heavier, carrying not just the papers, but also a new determination. The sun was shining brighter than when I had entered. Or maybe it was just that I could see it better now. For 3 years, I had lived in a fog of grief and manipulation. But that fog was dissipating, revealing an ugly but liberating truth. On the bus ride back, I hugged my purse to my chest and looked out the window. We passed the bakery, where Richard used to buy me donuts on Sundays. We passed the park where Jennifer had learned to ride her bike. We passed the church where we had gotten married 45 years ago. All those memories, all those beautiful memories. And yet here I was, a 69-year-old woman having to protect myself from my own daughter. When I got home, Jennifer was at work and Mark was snoring on the sofa, the television on showing some football game. I went up to my room quietly and hid the papers at the bottom of my suitcase, under the underwear and old socks. No one would look there. No one would think that I, the foolish old woman who let herself be manipulated, would have the cunning to hide evidence. I sat on my bed and looked around my small room, the peeling cream-colored walls, the window that overlooked the back alley, the tiny closet where my clothes barely fit. This wasn't a room for a beloved guest. It was a utility.